probably some documentation.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to XP Manchester number 62. You've got me tonight. I've got the enviable task of defending marks the same week that Captain Dak tweeted this. Anyone read it? Yeah. So before we start, hands up if you would consider yourself an advocate of mocks and use it in your testing on a regular basis. If you hate mocks and you think they should burn in hell. Interesting conversation has been of. If you're indifferent, you don't mind. Okay, there's an even spread there. So tonight you can expect this to take roughly 30 minutes. Material and time for discussion. The discussion, I'm easy, it can happen after the talk or after the practical, just depends how it goes really, but we'll try and get all of these things in. The bit link is xpman 62. It will take you to the blog post. At the bottom of that there's now links to these slides. There's also links to two forms. One of them's the JetBrains raffle giveaway thing. Random person selected every month to win a JetBrains product. The other one is anonymous feedback on session delivery and session content. You can be as critical as you like. I'm not a delicate flower, but try to be constructive. So, the talk. If you want to leave early, basically that. In summary. If you've got any questions, there's time at the end. But if you'd like to clarify anything on a slide, ask me near the end, so we can go through that.
Can you go backwards for 2 seconds? to the web address.
Oh,
thanks.
No problem. So if you want clarification on slides like that.
Right, thanks.
Done. Some of the slides I've got a rating to just warn you about the upcoming content. Some slides may be beardy, some slides may be hippie, some slides may be ranty. Ranty, self-explanatory. Hippie is a little bit more philosophical and probably sound better if you've had booze. There might be some in the fridge. Beardy is a more being anal, more pedantic about terms. I'm not doing it because I'm a huge nerd. I am a huge nerd, but I'm not doing it because of that reason. I see a lot of discussion and conflict that come about simply because one or more of the parties misses some information. They've got different assumptions or a different kind of view of the world, and you get into discussion that goes round and round and round, and then you find out actually you were kind of discussing slightly different things. So with terms that used to have a certain meaning to some people and now have different meaning to others, it's important we kind of agree on them before we start. This is why I'm being beardy. Right, to give you a little bit of idea of my worldview of mocks, where I came with them. So 8 years ago, I discovered the wonderful world of testing in TDD. I mocked everything because it's what I read on the internet from people writing very smart blog posts. And I hated it. Absolutely hated them. And did the obvious thing of thinking they were awful and started mocking nothing. And this week I've been playing with a new bot engine for the next XP Manchester bot tournament. And I set myself a constraint that I try and make the whole thing as tell, don't ask, no return values as possible. Kind of to see where it went, out of curiosity. And if you want to test that stuff, well, you're forced to use mocks because you can't inspect state of things. So this week I've been mostly rocking again. Context in terms of what I think this might be appropriate for. I'm assuming that you're writing code on a team. It's not individually. The code will be long-lived. As a result, you're likely to have a team whose roster changes over time. And the domain is meaty. You're not doing some sort of data in, data out, very, very basic thing. You've got rules and behaviour that you're trying to model here. I'm also going to assume that you're adults and you pick appropriate tools for the job and you don't just try and hammer in the shiny. Hippie money. You pick the appropriate tool for the job. You don't pick a job because that's the tool you have. So, for example, if you've got a problem, and when you design it and you think about it, you sketch it out on paper, and you realise it looks like a graph, your data store should probably be some sort of graph database, not a poor implementation of graph database in SQL. It's not to say that you shouldn't use tools, but they can influence us. Example, I work in an IDE where it's quite easy to navigate through lots of files and get to where I want to go quickly. So I tolerate having lots of files. It's also quite a powerful debugger. So you can use this debugger to manage complexity and solve problems that arise because of it. So you tolerate it. It's only when that complexity inevitably grows that you think, I need more powerful tools now, because you can't sort out the complexity because that ship is safe. It's now too big a beast. I will get onto mocks eventually, by the way. But mocks exist for tests, so let's think about what we need in a good test. A good test will save us time, right? It will reduce our cost of change. And it does that by helping us detect progressions in behaviour and acting as documentation, enhancing some of the stuff, right? Yes, code should be self-documenting, but nothing's perfect. As a result, it provides us confidence so we can try things out quickly rather than spending hours deliberating and wondering, can we do this? Is this a good idea? Just try it out and see what happens. And I used to think that any test was good. You know, at least you've got something wrong with nothing. And I've changed my opinion on that. I think poor tests are worse than no tests. They slow you down. They're brittle, and then they're brittle, you then have to go and fix them for unrelated changes. They add to confusion because they're not documentation, they're just a whole mess of crap. And you see a lot of poor tests and a lot of confusing tests that use a lot of mocks. But in terms of our tests, we prefer testing behaviour over testing implementation, explicit over implicit, and fast over slow. So like the Agile Manifesto, we prefer the left over the right. It's not to say the stuff on the right doesn't hold any value. Hey, we got that, mocks. Right. Unit tests are fast, right? And fast is good. Unit tests only test one thing. They have no collaborators. They have no real things, right? So that's how we go. So we end up mocking everything to get these nice fast unit tests. And then we have mocks returning mocks returning mocks returning mocks, which may or may not have been quoted by somebody famous about a year ago. Wow, look at me for a moment. I'll be pedantic. There are three main types of testables. Fakes, stubs, mocks. They're different. They're not the same thing. A fake is just a working approximation of something. So if you've got a data store as an interface, a real implementation is probably a database. A fake implementation is probably an in-memory list. And here's an actual working implementation you can swap out in testing. Whereas a stub is something that you program to give you a canned response. I'm going to call this method, I'm going to pass it 2, and I want it to return 4. It's a stub. Whereas a mock is something that's got an expectation on it. It's expecting you to call it a certain way. After you've been through the test, you then verify that all these expectations have been met. Some libraries call them spies. I actually think this is a better name. It's a little bit more revealing about their intended use. But a lot of libraries provide stub and mock functionality together, and then people lump them all as one. They say, if I'm stubbing this method, this is a mock. It's not, it's a stub. There's a difference. So if you see mocks returning mocks, you're not. You're seeing stubs returning stubs. You're getting data. You're probably aggregating a lot of data in some sort of query, which means it's less likely that you're modelling some complicated behaviour. And in actual fact, fake would probably be better for that. Did I say how cool? Cool. And one more point on the stubs returning, stubs. Fix your code. What else? So we're mocking lots of things. We can't depend on concrete classes. This I realise is a problem for static language and not dynamic types. Just bear with me for a moment. So we can't depend on concrete. What we get is a one-to-one interface implementation because absolutely none of our tests are testing anything that's got any real collaborators. None of this happens. Just loads of bugs everywhere. One-to-one. Well, hang on, shouldn't we be doing this anyway? Because apparently depending on abstraction is a good thing. This is just a good software design principle. Yeah. Good software design, depending on abstractions. That's not an abstraction. It's jumping through a hoop to satisfy a compiler. It's not an abstraction. Let's look at it. So, a standard MVC app. Often ends up looking like a thing model, thing view, with a thing controller. And it gets a little bit more complicated, and we're testing things, so we get these things from a thing service. That starts getting big, and we don't want to get any bigger, so let's have a helper. Wait, that's got big now. Let's just lump some crap in there. Good luck finding a particular method, because it could be bloody anywhere. Or if you prefer Java. Anyway, let's make this testable. Let's depend on abstractions. Bink, done. Oh, they're still nouns. Let's try and explain this with a metaphor. This is as hippie as it gets. Some years ago, I worked for a council. One of the projects that we had was we were going to take a mileage system that was paper forms, and we were going to put it on the internet and make it paperless and save a ton of admin time. And you learn a thing or two about how systems really work when you kind of model what's been human behaviour for a long, long time. So what we had was Lou. She was the office administrator that was in my satellite building. And Tony, who sat in the town hall, was the finance officer, the sort of central one. So you had all these satellite things. So you imagine that there's lots of Lou's around in the satellite offices. And in the satellite offices, she would collect and pre-process the forms, and she knew everybody. She was lovely. So she used to kind of like correct mistakes and pre-process it. So it had a little bit of stuff done so that Tony would accept it. She had other stuff to do. So what did she do? You booked meeting rooms through Lou. In the big meetings, she would take the minutes, and she acted as the PA for the IT director. Whereas this was only Tony's job. Day in, day out, he was processing mileage forms. He was retiring in about a year, and the council were quite eager to not refill his post. This is one of the reasons why the project was funded. It was like, oh well, you know, there's an easy, however many thousands of pounds we can save here. So let's model this in code. There we go, depending on abstractions. That's what your code's like when you just stick an eye in front of something. So, you know, Lou isn't an island. She's got many responsibilities. She's got many different roles in this system, and we should be modelling these accordingly. Go on, play. Tony doesn't depend on anybody with the name Lou. Tony just wants somebody to collect mileage claims. And when you've got a Tony and Lou kind of situation where they're talking to, they do stuff that's pre-processing that the other thing depends upon anyway. These two things are so slightly tightly coupled, there may well be one process and one file in the first place. But wait, more interfaces. Isn't that more things? You've just said you hate Linux interfaces. Well, it is. Don't do it unnecessarily. However, when you do it right, your responsibilities are clearer, your interfaces are smaller, and the things are then easier to break up. And also, you don't need to put an interface in every class because I would think this is one of the biggest things. I told you there was one meme. This is it. This So this discussion kind of happened a lot as you end up in various conversations about testing and what you should and should not test. Now, it's widely accepted that you don't have to test a private method. That's an implementation detail. However, you could refactor that, so instead of it being a private method, it's a collection of objects which are only used privately, behind the API. Suddenly, when you do that, warning signs go off to people, and this must be tested. Why? What's the difference? It's an implementation detail. You've chosen to do it with a collection of little objects rather than a collection of little private methods. Implementation detail. We don't test that. We also, never mind. Now, the intermediate response that Kent Beck spoke about this week is also an implementation detail. It's also subject to change. It might be slightly better than just testing what we call these random methods anyway, and I agree with that. But it's not to say that testing implementation detail doesn't sometimes have a little bit of value, it's just that behavioural tests are better. So what kind of things would we probably want implementation tests over? Well, stuff that's complicated, stuff that may break, although stuff that we probably want an intermediate implementation itself to break it down so there's a different, easier to comprehend behaviour. But this is overhead and it's still implementation. And you don't test the really simple stuff. Going into mocks, what would I test with mocks? I would test the interesting things that happened in the domain. So in the mileage case thing, I would be testing that a mileage claim has been submitted successfully. Or one's been revoked but because a manager doesn't agree with the journeys on the mileage claim. And that one has been successfully paid and is now completed. This is behaviour. This is the kind of stuff that your customer speaks about. This is the kind of language that they use. This is the kind of things you should be listening out for. This is behaviour. This is not implementation. This is stuff that needs to happen. And if these tests are no longer valid, well, that means the business rules have changed. So I wouldn't be listening out for these things with mocks. The save method was called, the status flag was updated, or the factually correct algorithm based on the claim type was called. That is really implementation. But this stuff, I argue, is behaviour. So we worry about roles, we worry about the behaviour that sits on those roles, not the implementation. Still behaviour, I still care about what's happening, not how it's happening. But when it's like this, then the code gets a little bit more adding subscribers to things that have happened so we can't do. So if we want to save it, we have to subscribe its listing for mileage claim submitted. And then another one which brings off the email. So they're now small implementations which we might get away with not testing because they're so straightforward. So we have things like logging or new functionality, or maybe a way to store these events that have happened, or tie into any other kind of things that I rant about. And we can look at the interfaces with these things on, saying that these are the important things that happen in our domain. This is another form of documentation in one place. Annotate it and get it published in a build script to say, hey, these are the interesting things you might want to care about. By the way, business person, have I missed any? As I was developing the unnamed xpman game, and I was looking at the list of things on that, I realised I missed a few things out. It wasn't so clear, wouldn't have been so clear, I think, with more traditional tests. One thing I have found, just a note, is I'm having more joy creating a new interface with a new thing on it, waiting till that stabilises, and then adding it into existing stuff, rather than the other way around. You know when I was saying earlier, we just keep on dumping behaviour onto this thing because it's roughly related? This stops that happening with this kind of rule. I haven't found that I've got one interface with one method on it though, because they do start to collect, but it becomes clearer after they've been added. So in summary, lots of bad things have been done in the name of mocking. This is true. But I don't think it's necessarily a problem with mocks themselves. I think they've been unfairly branded. Use them appropriately, not exclusively, as everything has trade-offs. Not the role, not the noun. Don't mock and I loo. She won't like it. Behaviour not implementation, as I've repeatedly said. Yes. No. Please don't. That's it. Any questions? Questions?
What's it blocking? I've not come across that.
The devil's work. So in summary,
explain it, let me stay pure.
in summary, the thing that you're testing has got tons of dependencies on. You're fed up with setting up mocks, right? So instead of thinking, it's got loads of dependencies, maybe I should sort that out. No, you make a tool, generate it all for you, so they're all set up, and then you can be blissfully aware and defer that pain until later. Bad judgment.
I think we'd have better luck with getting the distinction between those terms to see. If whoever, I can't remember who it was who coined those terms, hadn't picked 3 words with broadly the same definition in the dictionary, and then went, can't you see the difference, damn it? This is a fake and this is just mocking.
Yes.
Which in English is the same thing. And then go, no, it's vastly different. If they'd found terms that maybe express that better, like spy, it's at least kind of...
Yeah.
So, like in English, they are the same thing, which is why it leads.
Unfortunately, that ship has sailed. It's long gone. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So I mentioned events as well. If you're trying to put that into a system, you think, where do I begin? Stepping towards this way of doing it is a stepping stone, which may or may not yield positive results. I can show some of the code a little bit later if you want to, after we've done the exercise. But I thought it'd be better to have a stab at it first and see where that went. So it's with a heavy heart I suggest we do possibly the checkout kata or the potter kata or something like that. Simply because it's a little bit more of a meaty kata that lends itself to this kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'll try to think of new one. But the rules is what we're testing is stuff that's in the spec. So you will be testing with mocks. By the way, it doesn't need to be a mocking framework. You can hand roll them, that works fine. Or mock is just something that's listening for a message. But the messages you're listening out for is things like, item scanning. Well, not scanning. Well, possibly, but it's not added to basket, for example. There's the kind of starting point we see a lot of people. It's not that like discount applied. Perhaps item scan this works. Yeah, I think you're right. It is. It will probably lead you to a very, very similar place that you may have seen with, Canadians and whatnot. But anyway, let's see how it goes. We're all happy with that?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Do we need to break up these tables?
I think we probably do, yes.
Cool. Right, and then we can have a discussion afterwards.
In fact, what I might do for this bit is...
We've had a little bit over an hour. We said we were going to have a bit of discussion. You've got my girlfriend to thank for me being able to have this code at the moment because I thought it was on my laptop, it wasn't. I had to call her and reel off Git commands line by line for her to push it.
Sexy.
So I could. So if you want to tweet Crazy Bike Baking Lady, thank you for the codes. That would be amusing. Anyway. I feel like I maybe messed up a little bit with the talk and some people got the wrong end of the stick of what we were trying to do with the exercise. So this is the code that I've been working on that's kind of inspired the rant and how it's slightly different in the fact that the test, now caveat, the tests for this are going to be very, very different and its collaborators are because this is a bot tournament and it's like peer-to-peer. So the clients and the data is the same thing. So I've kind of hand-rolled a fake and a mock into the same thing. Even I said that different earlier. Forgive me. I didn't realise that what I've been doing. Anyway, this is all work in progress. It's all up for discussion. And I will stress that this has been as much as a thought exercise as it has been something. So don't go away and do this everywhere, please. It was more to see how does the code get different. Can everyone read that? I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. No, not right. Okay. So the next bot tournament is going to be battleships. I'm probably not giving away too much by that. You will, I imagine, know how the game works. And all of the special rules that make it a little bit different haven't been implemented yet anyway, so there's still surprises to come. And this is one of the tests that I was looking at. I've annotated it because I was showing the group over here a little bit earlier, and they seem to enjoy it. But this is everyone familiar with the walking skeleton from Goose? Nods? Couple of shakes. Okay, no. So, Goose, brilliant book. I've read at least a third of it.
I bought it.
Oh, have you read it?
I still run it.
Jeremy Cameron stole my copy. You still see it around.
Yeah, I think someone else does it now.
I'll never see it ever again.
Damn you, Ruby Jan.
It is a brilliant book. Unfortunately, the example all the way through it is boring as hell.
Yeah, that is the problem with it. I was doing really well until I got bogged down in the example.
So for the benefit of people that haven't read it, so the example they give is like an eBay sniper for auctions and stuff. And they kind of build the application throughout the book and they use it through their method, which is guiding object-oriented software. Sorry, growing object-oriented software guided by tests, and the acronym is Goose. They have this idea of a walking skeleton, that if the classist way of test driving is that you build lots of tests from the inside out and then hope they all work together when you stick the thing together. But the Goose way is that, well, no, we do the simplest thing from start to end, and we have a test that runs all the way through it. So it's like with the continuous deployment mantra is that your first commit is hello world, and you deploy that, and you have a server out there that's got something that says hello world, and you build from there. So the walking skeleton is something very, very similar. So I've got this that's kind of going all the way through from the code, and I do have like a little web app that acts as one of these bots as well. But these tests are slightly low down on that, and I've got a fake player who has got the same interface as what the website will have. Okay, does that make sense? So it's a programmable player in the sense that I can, in the test, say what it's going to do, how it's going to behave, and then it just fires those commands back to me when I say game start. Okay? You're familiar with how the bot tournaments work, don't you? Because there's three phases, but basically, yeah.
When's this one going to be?
When I find somewhere to host it and when I wrote this thing. And it's most likely going to be on a Saturday, I think. It might have a rerun in a thing. Saturday's got more flexibility because we can see if it's actually achievable within a short space of time. So this is a simple one. So we're going to attack an invalid grid reference, and they receive this message that no, it wasn't even on the board, you idiot. Why are you shooting that? When you miss, so in the setup, I said that we place gunboats vertically. Gunboats are those little two doodahs, the smallest ones. So obviously it's going to be A1 and A2. If we shoot A1, B1, A's go that way, letters go that way. Anyway. Thank God I've got tests. So if we attack the wrong place, then they get a miss. If they hit it, they receive a hit. Now, you probably wouldn't have these confirmations so much in other domains, but for the bots, they need that protocol because this needs to be robust. People fling so much crap in a bot tournament that that you need a lot of information and it needs to be resistant to errors, like really resistant to errors. So it would kind of go overboard on that. So it's not like a request response kind of thing. That will probably lead to badness. And when the bots do nothing, because there's a hard-coded limit of how many rounds there can be, we'll get a draw message at the end. But all of these things is behaviour, right? Hits, misses, draws. This is domain language. This is what you'd expect. You'd expect this in the rule book for battleships. Yeah. This isn't implementation, as we were talking about. There's a grid class in this. I think in a room full of developers, 99% of you, if I said implement a grid for battleships, we get a two-dimensional array that's either got something in or hasn't. My implementation doesn't have that at all. But we could change that, and these tests still work. So we've got mocks here that are behaviour based.
Or you don't have any specific test. You're not testing the grid on.
Yeah, I'm not testing that. It's been filled in with there's something here, there's something there. I'm just saying that when we place something there, we hit it, we get a hit, and then when we re-attack, we get a miss.
Because you're spying on the response, not the message that comes back to the player. And if the argument A1, for example, well, there's the fact that you get a hit message back. Asserts that the state of the grid is correct, so you don't have to assert all the grid state. You just for that action, the only thing you care about is the response being used to hit or a miss.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is you don't need to assert the model, which is the grid, a certain state of the grid. You just need to care about a little bit of the state, which is what comes back in the message.
As long as it's working as we'd expect for like that sequence of events, that's all we care about.
So are you saying there are some mocks in there somewhere?
Oh, that's a mock. Player one, that's a mock.
Right, okay.
It's a hand roll mock that I've put business language over it as well, because I wanted the test to be a little bit more readable. But it's so we scroll up. By the way, a lot happens with players, so it implements that, and an important part of this is, if I find the bugger, these broadcast game events. So that class is listing out for these events, these messages, just using the word events. These are the important things that happen: player miss, player hit, player shot, valid reference. That's what I said when I was looking at the API or the documentation. That's when I was I missed something here. There's the glaring omission, and then I can do a fine usage of when does this happen?
So you've got I listen to broadcast game events.
Yeah.
Is that a great role here?
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
I was going to say Kevin would shout at you for having something called that.
I'm getting better. So grid has also got the role of I get shot at, and I much prefer that one.
Yeah. So you try to teach that. So what were the game events then? On that interface, or are we going into?
No. This is just probably vanilla battleships. So I've got the broadcast game events, which is the kind of stuff that's open, right? It's open knowledge.
Yeah.
So yes, we've got better names, and we probably want to split this up perhaps. But there's another set of events which are private. So when one of the players attempts to place a ship and it's invalid, because I'm expecting the bots to make mistakes, I don't want to wreck that, I'm just going to place it for them. So the confirmation is, okay, you said you were going to place it at B4, but I put it at A1 because there was no B4. So, but they're private, so that everything listens to those.
So in your test, when you said player one, player missed, then your player one was implementing this interface and you were actually calling it player missed method. So where's the assertion?
Okay, so where's my programmable player? So yeah, this is a bit of a beast, and it says that it's been used in too many tests, so that there should be a hint to do something. But I was on a roll and I really didn't want to. So these are the programmable bits, as it were, and it would probably be better for them to be on their own interface. But here's, whoops. So these are the I play ships things that it's listening to, and the broadcast game events. So when a player misses, it holds on to that, yeah? And then we've got these ones that are for testing, which says that, have we received that message? It's there and it's got the correct information.
Right, sorry, I just remembered wrong. Yeah.
So it's different.
Do you think this is something you'll use more now that you've looked into this?
So, it depends. If the program that I'm working in, the existing one, isn't like this, no, I'm not going to try and force this in where it's going against the grain, unless there's a desire to move away from how it is. And I think if you want to go from it's like an event-sourced architecture rather than state or CQRS or something like that, this could be an intermediate stepping stone to start applying them, but without having to stick in event buses and crap like that.
Have you tried refactoring towards a design like this? Is that what you?
Not yet, no. That's the next thing to do, I guess. And this came about because the last domain that I had, I wanted to try and modify and add things to it, and it was a little less. I kind of wished those hooks were there, because I wanted it to report on different things, but I didn't want it to go and alter what was there too much, because I didn't have a huge amount of time. I thought I don't want to break too much that works. I know it will tell me that it's broken, but I want something that's going to work. So I wished I had this. So I kind of, what happens if I build that in from the beginning? I might go ahead and try and refactor towards this from the existing domains.
Yeah. I think this and what I've been reading in Goose and stuff like is showing that the mocking style of testing works better with a better object-oriented design. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And I think when people are struggling with mocks, it's often an indication that your code doesn't conform to an ideal object-oriented design. It's still trying to be a bit old school, a bit cerebral or something.
Yeah, and as I said in the talk, if you're aggregating a lot of data, that's not an OO problem. You know, it's you know, why you maybe use a query language perhaps for that tools and jobs. But if you've got, this has got a lot of behaviour in it, so it probably lends itself to that.
Sorry, is that test class that we're looking at there?
It is it's not.
So that is the test. Is it
It's not-
self-shunt is what I'm thinking.
It's not a test, no.
Is the test itself implementing
No,
the I
no.
listen to broadcast interface?
This isn't a test.
Right, sorry. That's
This is the fake mock thing. But yeah, it's a programmable thing that allows me to inspect it afterwards. Just because I wanted to write some tests like that. Where we place it horizontally, and then it was like running a full game, sort of end to end. Well, we place that there, we attack, and then we win.
Just least so you know, a clean test fixture, because you have all these assertion methods at the bottom to put them in the player. The player's got the states or the.
Some of them, I think this one, the winner doesn't hit the. Yeah, that's listening to that. In this one, this is a self-shunt actually, because we've passed that in there, and that's listening for that method. So it's not on the player. But yeah, you can do it somewhere.
So that method, then the winner only exists for the benefit of tests. Is it ever used by anything other than a test?
Oh, sorry, this is a test that you're looking at now. I scrolled up to a test.
It's all in the same file, so
I've got a bad habit of leaving them in the same file at the moment.
Okay.
I'd love to see a standard accepted game of life implementation. refactored in the styling. I think that would be a nice little interesting challenge for someone maybe to go with.
Yeah, sure. Feel free to go ahead. Well volunteered.
It's definitely an interesting insight. It's been an eye-opening experience. Thank you.
But if you look at it from a pattern perspective, you've got an interaction between two objects. You've got the client, which is the player, and you've got the server,
Yeah.
which is the game or whatnot. And no matter what system you write, you're going to have those interactions all over the place. And you just got very loosely coupled. You know, you're not using any getters. It's all everything's encapsulated in the right place, and the interaction through messaging, you know, it's very good architecture. I think it could be used in a lot more domains. And maybe we should all be writing all code layers.
Things that usually stop this happening is it's not easy. When you've been programming a certain way, you're fighting against many years of habit, and it's not standard for a lot of people. So you get conflicting architectures then when a few people in the team try to do this, and that goes the wrong way. So you need people to be phrasing. You need people to be agreed that you want to try something like this, I guess, and it's not applicable everywhere, as with everything. Probably.
So going to the checkout way of looking at it, drawing it against the battleships one, you effectively have a till or something rather. You're throwing products at it, expecting you to get a hit on the discount at some point if you're doing discount.
And then various different things in the system care about that that's happened. What's going on? I mean, it's realistic that you could add in a stock keeping aspect to it, where it knows about the levels of stock you got in, and it's got a little alarm, sends off a message to supplier when something runs low. Right? So if you wanted to add that, you listen for the number of items that go through the till and nothing more. But there's an extension point, there's a hook. So that then you can follow the open-close principle of open for extension, close for modification.
I think on the checkout one, it first becomes apparent that it's really useful when you get to the first discount. It's very easy to go, well, okay, so we've got it hooked up, so every time an A is scanned, 50 gets added to the total. I just listen, something's being scanned and 50 is added. But then you get to the bit where you get the discounts, and now you have something that's listing and it's just going, I've heard an A, I've heard an A, I've heard an A, excellent, fire off the message saying that now a discount of 20 should be applied, and then something's listening for that. And now you're no longer trying to keep track of how many A's have been scanned, and there's actually just something listening for A's being scanned and occasionally firing off a discount event.
Rather than trying to listen to everything.
Mm-hmm. So then you've just got whatever keeps total, and it's just going, it's just hearing, add 50, take 20 away.
And without having to change the stuff that already exists.
Yep.
We are at 9 o'clock, so that is probably a fantastically timed place to start. Thank you all for putting up with me. If anybody would like to continue the discussions, as normal, we go in the pub. English lounge with everybody? Oh,
different. Good, fine.
Sharp intake of breath there, man.
Times have changed. We're going to move on.
Common and I are no longer on speaking terms. Thank you. Let's go get